So welcome to Holy Matrimony. As we said, we're Erik and Candace Yates.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what we kind of coined Sunday night service because, we just two church kids
Mm-hmm.
who grew up in church. So I always had Sunday night service. We didn't always go, but... So we just want, to invite you to join in on our conversation this evening. We're going to have some fun.
Mm-hmm.
We have some fun things to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
And, we're here to support you in your marriage if you're married. If you want to be married and you want to learn more about, what other couples experience and the joys and the challenges and the successes. Or maybe you were married and you want to be married again or you don't want to be married again. This is all for you. Because ultimately... we are just people who have lived a little bit. We've been married a little bit. And we want to share our story and our testimonies with you. We want to encourage you to live whole in your life wherever you are, whether you are married or not. So, so be sure, like Erik said, to like our page, Holy Matrimony, and share it. And we want you to jump in and comment and have some fun with us this evening.
Yep.
So,
and also we have a podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And I'm working on a Buzzsprout also. And I'm working on Google Podcasts and one other one, but we'll keep you posted. But if you're driving in your car, and you don't want to be watching the video while you're driving, of course, you can go to the podcast and just listen and, hang with us.
And it's Sunday night, and we know some folks, for some people, Sunday night is like, okay, I got to prep, get ready for the week. It's already, close to 9:30. For us, Sunday is the end of our week. So we're wrapping up our week, and tomorrow, we'll jump into the week tomorrow. And we also have children, so, we tend to do our recordings later in the evening. So we understand some people have earlier bedtimes. We try to get to bed earlier, but we never do.
We try. Try.
We never do.
Yeah. All right. So let's start out with our fun fact of the day.
Okay. Marriage fact. Marriage facts.
I'm a trivia nerd, so I just love fun facts. I love interesting bits of information, even though I may not use them practically down the line. It's just nice to have them. So I like to start out with a fun fact. Candace has never heard this fun fact. So, the fun fact is approximately $6 billion in revenue is lost by American businesses as a result of decreased worker productivity linked to marriage hardship.
Ooh.
Employees in happy marriages, in contrast, tend to increase a company's bottom line.
Wow. That's very interesting.
$6 billion.
Okay, so let's read that again so we can just kind of digest, because that was a long fact, but I was kind of taking that in. Okay, so what you're saying was...
approximately $6 billion in revenue is lost by American businesses as a result of decreased worker productivity linked to marriage hardship.
All right.
So basically, people coming to work, but their home life is jacked up because they're having issues with their spouse and they're not as productive.
Well, yeah. And what I interpret from that is that, long story short, our economy suffers when marriages suffer.
You said
$6 billion, right?
Yeah.
$6 billion is like almost a tenth of our...
That's what Kanye is worth.
Oh, it's Kanye's fault. No, just kidding.
$6
our economy suffers when marriages suffer, and then our seems like, thriving marriages and marriage relationships actually benefit the bottom line. They benefit the economy. Wow.
Yeah, they increase the company's bottom line. Yeah.
Huh.
I mean, you think about it. Of course, people that are having issues at home, their mind is in other places when they should be working and being productive. But then also think about, like, if you're going through a divorce, you're taking time off work to go to court.
Oh, yeah.
For between, alimony, kids, all that court stuff. You got to take time to divvy up assets and all that kind of stuff.
Well, even before all of that, if your marriage is suffering, okay, let's be real, you guys, right? Like, we work in an American economy, the typical 8-hour workday. Some people's, workday is longer, but typically full-time employment is categorized as 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week. Especially because of COVID, and a lot of us have transitioned to working from home. We know that people do what? They shop, right? People shop while they're working, or they may, if you have children, you may have to juggle like doing stuff for your child online as far as things with school. So imagine if your marriage is suffering, all of the things that you have to do, like you're saying, if you're going through a divorce, taking time off from work, lawyers, but all of that prep work. And even before that, just what are you doing? Like, where's your mind, right? Like I would say if one of the major relationships in your life is suffering, like what are you doing mentally while you're working to either avoid thinking about that, or you're really like thinking about it, so you're maybe searching for things online. You're either searching for answers if you don't want to get a divorce, if you don't want your marriage to be dissolved. Like, maybe you're spending a lot of time trying to find answers, or maybe you're spending a lot of time trying to like be sneaky on your spouse or something, like look into their stuff. So yeah, that is really interesting. So when marriages suffer, our economy suffers. That's huge. Yeah. I mean, the divorce rate in the United States is over 50%.
I think it's over 50%.
It's over 50%. So so the marriage rate is over 50%, and look at our economy. Okay.
So we got to get it together, y'all. We got to start loving each other.
And stimmies ain't going to solve it.
Yeah.
Stimmies ain't going to solve your marriage problems.
Stimmies ain't going to solve it. That's a good tag, or a good line. Stimmies ain't going to solve it.
Stimmies ain't going to solve it,
Hashtag,
y'all.
Stimmies ain't going to solve it. You got to handle your money better.
That's right. Well, and like, okay, if your marriage is suffering, Erik knows my kind of theory or philosophy, I think, around successful marriages. I think a lot of the root causes point to issues around money. Doesn't necessarily mean that, in your relationship you're lacking money, but I think a lot of problems that couples have, a lot of fights that happen, I think at the root of a lot of them is money. So, okay, we get the stimmies. Fantastic, right? If you got multiple kids, we got multiple kids. You can do the math. But guess what? If you're not communicating, if you're not, if you don't have the same vision for what you want to do, what you want to do with your finances, then it doesn't matter. Like, doesn't matter that you got a stimulus check, because that is not going to solve your problems. Yeah. That actually might make it worse. Yeah. And I'm not saying that people don't need it. So that's we're just talking about in the realm of whether or not it's beneficial to your marriage relationship. If you're already struggling, is to get, kind of a drop in the bucket of money that you weren't expecting, because you're going to have your idea of what we should do with it. I'm going to have my idea of what we should do with it. And if we are fighting, if we're not listening and talking and communicating, it's going to cause problems. It's going to cause problems. That's deep. I mean, that is so... Woo-wee, y'all. So we have the power as married couples. Like, we have the power to boost our economy and stimulate our economy and productivity of our organizations by bettering our marriage relationship. That's huge. And think of it as if you own a business, right? If you have a business and you have employees, if you're a CEO, if you're a manager, whatever you are, if you have employees that are married, it is to your benefit to create an environment that helps them foster their relationships outside of work. So if you got the boss that is calling you, if you are the boss, if you're texting your employees that are married or in relationships outside of working hours on the weekends, if you're expecting them to call you, guess what that can do? That can put a strain on their marriage relationship, and it could ultimately not work for you. It could backfire.
Yeah.
That's it's a good marriage fact, but it's kind of like, oh, that's so sad.
We have to turn it around, folks.
Yeah. Thank you for that. That was good.
You're welcome. Yeah.
Cool.
So what's new with you? I mean, we had you want me to talk about
Sure.
this? We had a little bit of a COVID scare in the Yates household.
Yeah, like our second one, because I thought I had COVID.
Oh yeah,
some months ago.
Last summer or something.
Oh yeah, some months ago I kind of got sick all of a sudden, and I was like, oh shoot, but I didn't. Mm-hmm. But this one I think was more,
it was a little more real.
Yeah.
We, as you may know, our kids went back to school full time last Monday, and so me and Candace were at home working, enjoying our quiet time working here. I mean, not that we don't enjoy the kids being here, but it's nice for them to be back at school and for us to be able to work from home.
Yeah.
But then come Wednesday morning, you got a call that said what? Who was it? Who did they say?
Oh yeah, the school called and said that our oldest was in the nurse's office, that she wasn't feeling well. And she basically had 3 of the COVID symptoms that they have kind of like on their list. So if you have 2, then you have to quarantine. And since we have 3 children in the same school district, because she was exhibiting those symptoms, they all had to come home.
Yeah.
So they called my other daughter at the same school. They called her out of class. They had to isolate her. And Erik went to get them, and then we were like, oh, like our son is in middle school. He's at the different building, and I'm like, he has to go home too, right? So we called, and I told the nurse, I was like, yeah, my daughter's being sent home from school because, she has COVID symptoms, and I'm like, her brother has to leave the school. She's like, yep, you got to come and pick him up. And we're like,
yeah.
So,
Shucks.
yeah, so she would have had to stay home 10 days. And then her siblings, because they were not exhibiting any symptoms, would have had to stay home for 14 days unless we were able to get her in for a COVID test and it came back negative.
Thank you, Lord.
Yes, so thankfully.
Yeah,
thankfully we were able to get her tested the next day. We actually found a place Wednesday. It was a saliva test. I'm going to say right now, if you have children that have oral motor issues, or if they're just really sick, please don't take them to get a saliva test. Just stick the cotton thing up their nose because that did not go so well. She actually got sick at the testing site.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't horrible, but I had to clean up the table. So then we took her Thursday. Thankfully, Saturday we got the email. It was negative. They were very excited. Mm-hmm. She was like, so I can go back to school on Monday? We were like, yes. Mm-hmm. Y'all all can go back.
So, yeah.
All y'all. Gone. So they are going back to school tomorrow. But, this is like the new normal for us folks, right? Mm-hmm. If you have kids, and we realized, and when she did come home that day, she was sick. Like, she was sick. She didn't eat all day. She slept all day.
Yeah.
She was like she was sick. Mm-hmm. And we remembered that like the trees are budding outside.
Yeah. And
her and Erik get so bad.
Yeah.
In the spring when I'm like, shoot, like it's the end of March. Mm-hmm. Usually we start her on that allergy med cycle, and sure enough, hadn't started, and it was typical. Like she gets like that. Yeah. But guess what? Like, we don't get to tell the nurse, oh, it's just allergies.
Yeah, it don't work like that.
Yep. No. We don't get to say and especially for her, thankfully, now that she's older, she doesn't have the sinus issues like she used to.
Yeah.
But growing up, my baby had the runniest nose 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
So
she would cough up stuff all day.
All day. And so we would just tell them, that's just how she is. She just has a runny nose. But guess what? We can't just walk into school and be like, yeah, she just has a runny nose. She's kind of just running a low, it's not a fever. Guess they're going to be like, bye. Go home.
Yeah.
10 days, 14 days, or get a test, and it better be negative. Like, So thankfully it came back negative.
Yep. That was a relief to all of us. Because, I mean, of course we want our daughter to be well, but it's like when you have things planned and stuff, and like, our other daughter's birthday is coming up.
Tuesday.
She was like, man, we're going to be able to go out to dinner and do the things we normally do, And actually,
her birthday
last year, it was like the beginning of the quarantine.
Her birthday was like the first COVID birthday.
Yeah, it was the first day of distance learning last year, wasn't it?
Oh, it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
and she was a part of those group of kids where they had plans, but all of a sudden, because of COVID, you can't see your friends. You can't have people over. So she was one of the first people that I knew of. I saw that video of a little boy somewhere whose parents threw him the birthday parade, and I had a bunch of people that, I mean, they really came through in the clutch. I'm talking about friends that drove 45, 50 minutes to our house to surprise her with the birthday parade, because she turned 13 last year. And that was a huge, she became a teenager. She became a teenager during COVID. All of a sudden, we went into, COVID hit, go work from home. That was March 16th.
Right, yep.
Her birthday is the 30th. So she was just kind of on pins and needles this last week, wondering oh my gosh, are we going to have another COVID birthday quarantined at home again? Right. I mean, that would have really sucked. So, I mean, it's not perfect. She's not going to get to do everything, but, Yeah. So thanks, Martil. Thank you so much. Yes, we're so glad that we figured it out, and just glad that, that it's not COVID. And it's funny because my daughter, whose birthday is Tuesday, I was like, look, we have to get her tested. If it's negative, y'all go back to school on Monday. But I said, look, if it's positive, we ain't going nowhere. Yeah. It is what it is.
One that did and learning.
Yeah. You're going to be right here at home. But we're very happy.
Yeah.
Too, because, we have weathered the storm with 3 children, all taking three different kinds of education, even models for all 3 of them. Yeah. It's different. Yeah. All 3. While working from home. And so hats off to all of those parents out there really that had to do that and are continuing to do that throughout this year, because we know that's not easy. But we're also just looking forward to having some time alone.
Yes, during the day.
Yes.
Taking breaks.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean. Do I need to be more descriptive?
No, I don't think so. They probably can see me blushing. You breaking a sweat?
Taking a break and breaking something off. Oh, sorry.
Okay. See? Y'all who know him, y'all think he's just so sweet. He's just so mild-mannered.
I am, yep.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Oh, he got it in him.
Yeah.
Lord have mercy. But we were just thinking, about a year ago this time, we had kind of did a live. We checked in with some couples, hey, how are y'all doing? Because we knew that a lot of couples were having to transition into this new way of doing things where you both might have to be working from home, or maybe the primary person that was outside of the home had to work from home and also kind of do double duty caring for kids and stuff. And so we have been in this situation before, obviously not because of a pandemic. But when we first got married, we were in full-time ministry together as pastors. And so we worked together. Right. This is different. We got 2 different jobs now. But when we first got married, we were both pastoring full-time together as newlyweds, living in our house, learning each other as husband and wife, and learning the church that we were pastoring, because it had already been established. We were it was an exchange of leadership, and so we understand just how you have to the adjustment that's needed to be in that space with your spouse all day long, especially if you haven't been doing that, right? And so we applaud all of you who made it.
Yeah,
Who made it.
some people didn't.
Yeah, yeah. But we enjoy being around each other, and we
Yeah.
enjoy each other's company. Yes, we annoy each other sometimes.
But then also, I'll speak for myself.
Yeah.
I know when it's like, okay, don't clown too much. Like, turn it off a little bit. She's busy. She's,
I
she's
make
trying to be
that face.
productive. Like,
I have those
don't
faces.
step over the boundary.
I look like...
And that comes with, experience and
Yes.
paying attention.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think I've also grown to like be a little bit more explicit in letting you know, even if I'm not verbalizing it. I've grown to be more explicit, like, dude, like, instead of just kind of doing that in my head.
Yeah.
Because you know how we can get ladies, right? Like, he get on your nerves. You wish he would stop. Like, oh my gosh, why is he being so loud? But you're only saying all of that in your head. You're not letting it show on your face.
Yeah.
You're not communicating it to him. So then what happens later on that evening? I'm tired. I have a headache. I want to go to bed. And he looking like, what's wrong with you? What did I do? Right? Because you didn't say anything all day long. But now I've learned to verbalize, or at least to like kind of send a very direct message, without hurting your feelings.
Right.
Like, and sometimes I do be like, could you like...
I'd be like, okay.
I'm like, could you bring it down just a little bit? Because, we do have so much fun with each other, though. I think we have to remember... I am working.
We are working. And I work too,
Yes, yes. He worked more than I do sometimes. But
I start a little earlier, so, I kind of plow
right.
through a lot of stuff early in the day. And
Yeah.
then,
You have about 2 hours on me every day. That's
almost,
what it is. So he's working.
Yeah.
So then we get to talk, and then I'll be like, I'm working too. But I'm that person in the office that if you walk up to me because you need to talk to me about something work related, we're talking for 45 minutes. Easy.
I'll be like,
yeah. Don't schedule a
don't talk to
30-minute
me.
meeting with me because we're going to go 45 minutes minimum. That's just me.
That's funny.
I'm going to ask you how you doing. I'm going to remember something you said in a different meeting. I'm going to check on that. Right? Like, we're going to have a little small talk before we get in. I'm learning how to, like, speed it up. But I just know for a fact that, like, if you call me for a work reason, whatever, we're talking. We're talking. I am Janet's daughter. If y'all know my mom.
Archie's daughter too.
Oh yes.
Archie can go too. Don't
That's
get it
true.
twisted.
No, it's Archie. It is. I am my father's daughter, so it is what it is. But
you remember? I mean, this is a totally sidetrack. Remember the picnic we went to?
Yeah.
And there was this young man that her dad just met that day. And they sat and talked for 4 hours straight.
The
just
whole
them
time.
two. 4 hours. I was like,
His
Dad.
newlywed wife was appreciative, though.
Yeah.
She was appreciative.
I was like, 4 hours straight. Two
Yeah.
dudes. Oh, man. That blew my
My
mind.
dad can talk, y'all.
Yeah.
My dad can
that
talk.
was funny.
So I have the gift of gab.
Yeah.
But so we know how to adjust. We knew kind of how to adjust. We know each other. I mean, granted, we had also been married 17 years or almost 17 years going into the pandemic. So that gave us, we had some stuff under our belt in terms of how do we adjust being in this space with each other every day, all day.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And we know that may have been a challenge for some of you, and it still might be a challenge because for some of us, our work environment is not changing. So for the both of us, we may very well be working at home, pretty much 100%, for the foreseeable future, and that scares some people.
Yeah.
That does. I mean, I can't imagine like learning that okay, we're gonna be working from home, and me feeling like, oh my gosh, like what, like
I can't take no more.
right? I mean. You're married, like we're married to each other. So if my attitude would have been like, oh my God, I cannot believe I have to work at home because I'm gonna be around him all day. Okay, we got some work to do.
Yeah.
We got some problems, y'all. Like, what is going on? But that's the reality for a lot of couples. So we're thinking of you. We're here to support you.
Yeah.
Let us know what questions you have just about being in each other's space. Because that's not easy for some people. And I think we might actually kind of take that for granted a little bit because it just comes so natural for us just to be around each other all the time. Because it was another like fact you did share with me.
Yeah. It said that the average couple, with work, commuting, kids, other responsibilities, being on phones and TV and all that, the average couple, and I find this mind-boggling, but it said the average couple only spends 4 minutes together, like one-on-one every day. I'm like, then who's below average then? Like, what are
I
they
didn't even
doing?
think about that. Like average is 4 minutes.
Yeah.
But no. We did kind of talk about that because, there could be, we watch some reality TV. So like, there's one couple where the wife was becoming she was doing her residency as a doctor.
Yeah.
So she literally, right, y'all probably was going to have 12, 16, 18-hour days, come home, literally crash and get up and leave. So that, it could be for a period of time.
Yeah.
But so there are situations where, like my parents, my dad growing up, my dad worked second shift. So he worked like 2 to 11. But sometimes at some point he also kind of worked overnight. So like he would come home and go to sleep. I would wake up. He was already asleep. My mom would get up, get us ready, go to school. She go to work. Then my dad wakes up later. He does whatever. He leaves. My mom comes back home. So it's like there is, for some folks, there is that difference in schedule.
Right.
But at the same time, we know that ain't everybody.
Yeah.
So to think 4 minutes.
Yeah.
Out of 24 hours.
Gotta do better.
But how can they do better? Like how can couples do better if they're just passing like 2 ships in the night?
Well, for instance, one thing is just make a conscious effort to put your phones and tablets and stuff down. It's hard, with this, now what we're in the social media age, a lot of us are just kind of glued, our phone is glued to our hands and our thumbs just can't stop moving, and it's, there's room for that because it's almost like, in a way, sometimes people use that to connect with other people, but you really got to take time to connect with the one that you're closest to.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So sometimes you might have to say, okay, we're not going to put the phones down. Like one thing we started.
You mean we are going to put
we are going to put the phones down. Yeah. One thing we started, which we kind of fall out of and come back to, is no phones in bed. Before bed, we lay down, no scrolling because we're going to be up for an hour. We may be talking and sharing, oh, look at this or whatever.
Right. Is it important?
Right.
If we're doing that, it's kind of not beneficial.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
You might get a laugh here or there or whatever, but you end up staying up another half hour.
Yeah.
And when, you could be getting down, you know what I'm saying?
Or you could
sorry to bring it back to that.
Or you could be spending some quality time together, having real conversation.
Yeah.
Before you do that.
Yeah.
So, but it's funny because we were doing that. We didn't do it for that many days, and we want to get back to it. Mm-hmm. But I remember it was like we would literally stand next to the bed.
Yeah.
And be like, okay,
we're getting the last scroll in.
Anything else?
Put the phone down one more time.
Put the phone down. Get in the bed. But it's like, okay, if it's that, like, if we really have to mentally, like, do that much work to not get in the bed on our phones, that means we need to spend less time with them. Yeah. We already have a rule. So there's another thing. We have a rule. This pertains to our children, but, we lead by example. No devices at dinner. Mm-hmm. Don't ask no questions. We have a sign.
Don't even ask if you can bring your iPad or whatever to dinner.
Right. If you come to our house, we actually have a sign that is up in a little plastic stand that says, no devices at dinner. Don't ask any questions. Don't ask.
Yeah,
don't ask. Right? Because our kids would be like, can I have my iPad at dinner? And so now
I got tired of saying no.
Right.
Or we got tired of saying no.
And we used to have the sign on the table.
Yeah.
So when they came up to dinner, we would just say,
"Yep," just point to the sign.
What does the sign say? But guess what? Now, We don't have to say anything. They look at each other like if he's waiting for dinner, he'll have his iPad. So Jaden, the oldest, she'll come out her bedroom and she'll stand at the top of the stairs. And I'll be like, Jaden, just tell him it's time for dinner. And we'll say, because she'll look like he got his iPad. I'm like, Erik, it's time for dinner. Go put your iPad away. But there's no fussing anymore. There's no like fussy attitudes. So like we do that too. And we actually have very good, fun conversations as a family at our dinner table. Yeah. Every time we have dinner. And I think this was it? I'm trying to think if it was early on before we had kids that we kind of really tried to be intentional about having dinner together.
Yeah.
More so as
we've always kind of done that.
Yeah. But even as our kids have gotten older and as we started having kids and they got older, we were very intentional about we have dinner together.
Yeah. And not like watching TV while we eat and all that kind of stuff too.
We don't eat on TV trays in front of the TV. Yeah. We turn the TV off, and that's that. I mean, I think that's a really big thing for me. Just my family, we would have dinner together a lot at our dining room table, and sometimes we'd eat in front of the TV. But I don't know, it just was a really big thing for me to make sure that as a family we have that time because I know, I mean, as our kids, our oldest, they're in the 9th grade, so we only have a few more years before they are off and potentially not, in our house having dinner with us every night. And so, but that is a way for us then to connect every single day. And our kids watch us, like we'll sit at the table and talk to each other about work and stuff while they're eating and they'll, jump in, but we have quality conversation too then at the dinner table. We're not in our devices and stuff like that, right? Because that 4 minutes, that kind of hurt my spirit.
Like 4 minutes,
that's just mind-boggling. I mean, even if it was 10 minutes or 15 minutes or just 20 minutes or just 30 minutes, like that isn't that much time every day to meaningfully connect with your spouse, right? And go let's take it all the way back to the beginning of our conversation, right? Marriages that struggle negatively impact the economy. You're married. We can't improve our marriages if we're not spending any time together. Any meaningful conversation if we're not distraction free. Right. So sitting down next to each other watching television is not quality time. It could be a start, right? If you need to kind of snuggle and do all of those things, but it's not quality time. Right. So if that's you, challenge yourself. What can we do to connect every day? Yeah. One thing we talked about earlier, another thing we used to do for a while, and we decided that we're kind of get back to this. If you've ever read The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod. Phenomenal book. Phenomenal. But he also has The Miracle Morning for couples. And maybe we'll talk about that a little bit more in depth, kind of go back and read it some more and come back. But one of the things he encourages couples to do, because if you're familiar with The Miracle Morning, that is your savers. That's an acronym that you do on your own. You wake up every morning and you do each one of those things. As a couple, there's also an acronym called TEAM. So every morning, you set aside maybe like 15 minutes, not even that long, because we used to do it when we were working outside the home. Right. So you would have to leave at what time?
Oh, man. I'll leave like 5:50 or something like that, 5:45.
At 5:45, like so girlfriend was waking up and sacrificing some sleep. Because I didn't wake up that early. Yeah. But for us to have our team time, I would wake up and we talk about, I don't totally remember the acronym. Was it TEACH?
Yeah, TEACH. Oh, man.
So team, we'll talk about it next week because I think this would be really good. Yeah. But team, it was an acronym and we just kind of each shared points from that, we were learning or wanted each other to be aware of that related to that TEAM in team. And it just helped us really to connect before our day got started. We really knew where each other was at. Even just basic stuff like, oh, don't forget after work, I'm stopping here and doing X, Y, and Z. Or don't forget, you got to send the permission slip for the girls, whatever. Just even small things. But then there's also other opportunity for us to share, like, okay, what has God laid on your heart?
Yeah.
Or like, what are you, where are you spiritually? Like, how are you feeling? And how am I feeling? And it was like 15 minutes, sometimes 10 minutes. So for those of you who don't feel like you can talk to your spouse, for an hour,
Start where you are.
It wasn't even that long. But it really just helped us to like start our day together as a couple and be on the same page. So we'll talk about that next week. Because I think that, or actually next week, but not next Sunday, because next Sunday is Resurrection Sunday.
Oh yeah.
But we will talk about it next week. So yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, because we got to spend some more time together.
Yeah.
Okay, a little bit more time.
Yeah.
So all right, well. Our discussion this evening, is that where we're at here?
Yeah.
So, kind of the last part of what we want to talk about, and this kind of fits into, I guess, everything we've been talking about tonight. It's we just really want to talk about supporting your spouse, supporting your spouse through everything, through all of their growth, changes, opportunities. At our church, we're kind of learning about how to live a successful life, and that involves sacrifice. And that really, that made us think about the times where we've had to sacrifice for each other and how valuable that was and how much we both appreciate that. And so we wanted to just spend some time just discussing that with all of you and kind of maybe giving you a glimpse of like, what does that look like? What does it mean to support your spouse when they have dreams, when they have goals, or when they're evolving and changing as a person? What does that look like? How do you feel about having to be the one to make some sacrifices at the time, and like, how was that for you?
Throughout our marriage, there's been many times we've both had to sacrifice for one another's dreams and aspirations. First of all, I mean, when we first got married, as Candace mentioned, we were in full-time ministry as newlyweds. And, we knew we were going to do that when we were engaged. And so after... Well, Candace, I guess, had to sacrifice, I mean, I guess you didn't mind being the first lady, but some women might be like, I ain't going to trying to be no first lady.
I didn't.
But she wasn't really, she was a co-pastor.
Yeah, it wasn't a traditional first lady role.
Yeah, she didn't wear big hats. But, just even in that endeavor, we both had to sacrifice a lot for one another. We've talked about it before where, that was a really pivotal time in our lives. And then there were some times where, I would be down and she would have to lift me up, and she would be down. I'd have to lift her up and pray for her, and she'd pray for me, and encouraging one another. And there were a lot of things like we might have wanted to do, financially and experiences we wanted to have, but we couldn't because we didn't have any money. We were sacrificing in that way too.
Oh yeah.
So, there was all that. But then even going forward in our lives, after we moved on to different things, for me, first of all, like musically, I've always been, ever since I've been playing bass, I've always sought opportunity to play and do things on a bigger and bigger level. And when we got married, I kind of stopped that when we were pastoring. Yeah. But after we stopped pastoring, I was getting back into it. But then that was when we were starting to have kids and things like that. And I always, still wanted to try to further my musical career, or whatever you want to call it. And Candace was always gracious with, allowing me to do that, even as we started having kids. Now, I'm sure there were times where you were like, again? I'm sure, because I was playing all the time, going to all these, rehearsals and concerts and on the road a lot, for a whole weekend, And she had 3 little babies with her, the whole weekend, dragging them to church and everything.
3 kids who also were with me all day.
Yeah.
Because at that time, I worked in childcare, directly in childcare as a teacher. And for a moment, like, Jaden was in my class. But even with, like, not having them necessarily in my room, they were with me all day. Like, I checked, I would be in there. I was nursing at the time, some of them. So it was all day. So then it would be all day. Then it would be all night. And it would be all weekend. Yep.
And, and I would, come home with a little bit of money, but it wasn't like I was rolling in dough. I tried to bring something back to the household, but just the fact of me being gone, that was a sacrifice that she was willing to make.
Yeah.
And, down through the years, I've had more and more opportunities. Our kids are, older, and they don't take as much hands-on care.
They even were able to start going to rehearsal with
Yeah, at some point, and we can talk about that, because when you shifted and started doing your Mary Kay business, you had meetings on Saturday, so I would bring them in rehearsal with me, know, so it's like when life shifts and you're trying to grow in different ways, you got to take turns. You got to, be willing to hold the other one up in what they're attempting to do.
Yeah.
That's kind of, but now, thank God, since I was able to, get my feet planted and make a name for myself, so to speak, now I have no problem getting opportunities, and I'm doing well. So I'm really grateful for a woman that has supported me through all that, because I've spent a lot of time away from home playing. And,
and there was a time, like, even before that, I don't think we had kids I don't think we had kids yet, but you even sacrificed in that, because you started out playing for free.
Oh yeah. I played a long time.
He played a long time for free. Then when he did start getting opportunities, it was still like, can you help me out kind of stuff. And it was like, can you help me out, and we want to rehearse 4 times. So 20
songs, but I don't think I ain't got much, man.
But it was a sacrifice, like, so you even sacrificed on your end. But I think for me, what I saw, especially like when we were pastoring and you did stop, like, he was miserable. Like, he was miserable. There's no other way to describe it. You were miserable, and because that was really a part of you that you were setting to the side and, like, choosing not to cultivate.
Right.
That's my word, cultivate. And that was really difficult for you. And so when the time came, for us to shift out of that and to, like, establish ourselves a little bit better with full-time jobs, and then you, like, started getting these opportunities, it was kind of a no-brainer for me. It doesn't mean it was easy. No, it was not easy. But I really felt like that, oh my gosh, like, you're so passionate about it. You're so talented. You're so gifted. It would be very foolish of me to be like, well, no. Like, we have 3 kids. Like, you need to stay at home with me. God provided, and I was still able to build, relationships and stuff like that. But it was a sacrifice for a moment. It definitely was. It was definitely a sacrifice for me, because, like, as you traveled, my schedule kind of was dependent on whether or not he was going to be out of town. And, even later on, when we were down to 1 vehicle, it was yet another sacrifice, because he had to take the vehicle because on Sundays. So, I had to get rides and, just different things, and that impacted me differently. But, those tables, I think, did turn, because I believe sacrifice is, you sow a sacrifice in your relationship. And did I, like, sow a sacrifice knowing that, like, I am going to sacrifice for him because I know one day he's going to sacrifice for me? Not really, right? Like, it's not like we had a conversation where I was like, well, I'm going to sacrifice for 8 years, 9, 10 years, and then you have to now then sacrifice for me. Like, we didn't have that conversation.
Right.
No. But you got to a place where eventually you needed, you wanted to shift and have a different type of balance. And so a lot of the things that I had to sacrifice quite a bit for, I didn't have to sacrifice for anymore. Because you were like, you know what? I don't want that. I want a form of it, but that's not exactly what I want. I want more time with my family. So you shifted. Then I, was taking advantage of some opportunities. So then it was reciprocated. It was a no-brainer. It wasn't like I didn't have to hold it over. I didn't have to hold it over your head and be like, well, since I sacrificed for you all these years. No. I didn't have to do that because I did it. I sacrificed out of love. I didn't sacrifice out of obligation. He never made me feel like, well, I'm trying to put food on our table, so you better be happy and you better be glad that I'm out here doing X, Y, and Z. No, I sacrificed out of love because I saw what he was passionate about. So then when it came to me, when it was my turn, and he saw how I was becoming passionate about an additional business, when I became a Mary Kay consultant, he was like, oh, it's a no-brainer. So like we had you were at a different church playing. I started having meetings on Thursday evenings. I would have meetings and stuff on Saturday mornings. He would take the kids. They were a little bit older, they could kind of entertain themselves. He would take the kids on Thursdays. He would take the kids on Saturdays. There were times where if I already had something planned, he would have to turn some things down. Be like, nope, I can't do that. My wife has something planned. He didn't come back to me and say, oh, well, what I'm doing is more important. You can't do that.
Nah.
And we know that happens in relationships, right? Where couples try to, what am I trying to say? They measure the validity, the value of what each person is doing.
Right.
And so then you treat the other person like, well, what I'm doing is more valuable to our marriage. So then I always need you to sacrifice because what I'm doing is more valuable. I mean, dollar for dollar. Yeah, maybe what he was doing was more valuable, but he saw the passion that I had and the desire and what it was doing for me as a person. Like,
right.
Yeah, the relationships that. Were you gonna say something?
I want to talk about that because one of the things when you started your Mary Kay business, of course, you wanted to be more social and wanted to meet people and all that, but you wanted to make money, right? And one thing you wanted to do was like double your income. And, you're not as active in it anymore, but you've made money, but the skills you learned and the connections you made have caused your career to double what you made before. So the sacrifice paid off.
It did.
Know what I'm saying?
It did.
Yeah. So, I'm just glad that we were both cognizant enough to want to allow the other one to go after what they wanted because it paid off.
Yeah, and that's kind of, that's at the heart of why we're sharing how we had to sacrifice for each other. Because in a marriage, you're still two individuals. You come into that relationship and sometimes you may have some dreams that are dormant. You may have some dreams or some goals that aren't even realized, when you first get married. Like my dream of, helping people to cultivate relationships, my whole career that I'm in right now, where it's turned, that didn't exist when we got married. And even, he was a musician. So I knew like, he's a musician, he plays the bass. Like I knew that when we got together because he was doing that before we were married. So at least I kind of had that idea like, oh, he's a musician. But I didn't even see at that time the level that he was going to grow to even as a musician. So we have to understand that like in that relationship, we are going to change and evolve. Can't change each other.
Right.
Not that kind of change, right? Can't change each other, but you are going to grow and evolve. So how do you support your spouse through all of that? There's sacrifices. There's sometimes we have to make sacrifices, right? I had to be the primary caregiver while he traveled, but then he realized one of his dreams, like that was a thing. Your ultimate dream, your ultimate goal, he said, I want to be the best dad. That's always been his dream. And so that's where that shift came, where it's like, okay, let me shift some priorities because our kids are getting older and like this isn't necessarily as significant as me being an active part of my active parent in my children's life. So like I'm going to shift. But when you did that, other doors started to open. I mean, literally the floodgates. I really feel like the floodgates.
Yeah.
You know, when we look back but again, that experience that you had playing with groups and stuff like that, traveling, that prepared you.
Yeah.
That created, that really helped you to make a name for yourself. Like, if you would have just acted any kind of way, then these other people probably wouldn't have hired you, right? So it was you sacrificing as well in the midst of that for your future.
Right.
But yeah, even as we've shifted, I think, and grown in our careers, yet again, we have found ourselves having to figure out how do we support one another as you grow in your career, as you grow as a parent, and realizing that, like, I don't get to step over here and tell you what to do. You know, yes, I'm your wife, I'm your spouse. There will be times where I need to advise you with wisdom, but like, I can't tell you like what to do, and you can't tell me what to do in terms of like what my goals and dreams and aspirations are. We have to figure out how to support each other, you know. And even in this last year, I really appreciated that, because I've stepped into somewhat of a new arena. You know, I've been in early childhood, been in my field for 17 years. It makes you feel old when you like start talking about double digits in like a career field. Dang. But yeah, I've worked in early childhood education for 17 years now. Yeah, because Jaden will be 16 in October. Oh, Jesus. Yeah. But now, like, where I'm at is in a totally different place, and I'm embarking on kind of like some new areas in that work, and I really needed to invest in myself. I needed to invest in myself, education wise, and I could still need to do that. And like, you've been really supportive. Like, he hasn't looked at what I'm doing and like, well, you've been working in that field for 17 years. Like, why you need to go and do that now? Why you need to pay all this money to take all these classes? No, you've been understanding. You've recognized the sacrifice, because we have sacrificed in the past, and it's paid off.
Yeah, and I see the passion you have for it too. You know, it's like you gotta set her out there, you know, because she's gonna do something great, because I can see the passion in
and if you don't, I'm just gonna talk your head off.
yeah.
But now you're there.
Yeah.
So like, you've got
I got
goals.
some stuff I'm about to start in my career that can really be a launching pad into a lot of different things too. So
and you've been there.
Future's bright.
15?
It'll be 15 years next
April.
Saturday on the 3rd, April 3rd. It'll be 15 years.
Wow.
I had my watch on earlier that they gave me, but it's upstairs. Yeah.
So, but I mean, 15 years in the field, in a career, 17, growing in our relationship, and still understanding and knowing that, okay, you're still growing. You're still setting new goals, right? You're still kind of working to achieve new things. So me as your wife, like, it's important for me to support you in that and not allow you to be complacent. Because even like with what you're going to be doing with getting your Series 7, like, you talked about that for a long time. And part of it was like, where you were department wise, it just wasn't, you didn't need it. Like, it wasn't a good, you didn't need to do it at the time. But now, if my attitude would be like, oh, so I mean, like, you're going to have to study. So that means like, I'm going to have to keep the kid, you know, like, just all that stuff. Like, that just weighs on your spouse when you make it about yourself. You know, when you make it about yourself, it just weighs on them. Yeah. But you have to, I mean, we've built a relationship to the point where I think we know we can take that kind of risk, right? Asking the other to sacrifice. Right. Because we've made a habit of following through. Right. Now, if you aren't following through in supporting your spouse, or your spouse hasn't followed through in their support of you, then I can understand the challenge that there might be for you to like even share, you know, your passion or share your goal. But that is something that you have to work on and you have to communicate with your spouse about. And it also is tangible. It's tangible, right? So I can't just say to you, I just need you to support me.
So what you doing? What?
Exactly.
Like, you gotta be more specific.
See, exactly. So we can't just say, well, I just need you to support me, because your idea of support might be staying out of my way and just not doing anything. Don't touch anything because I don't want, or it could be overly something that I'll just be like, okay, wait, I don't need you to do. That's not what I'm saying. Yeah. So even when you're asking your spouse for support, you got to be specific. Right? You're going to be studying, like, how much do you need to study?
I think they said a total of 60 hours.
And it's been how long since you've been in college? The last time he was, like, taking a class?
Well, the classes I took that I've taken since college weren't really long.
I know, so since college.
So college, I graduated in the year 2000.
Yes, in the year 2000. So it has been almost 21 years.
Almost 21 years
so now
since I really had to study.
Right, so he's going to be digging into a course that's going to be requiring you to study a significant amount of time. So that's going to require a sacrifice on my part, right? Because, I might have to fall asleep while he's still studying. Most likely I won't.
Probably won't, though.
No.
He's a night owl.
And I think if you'd be better to get up early and study.
Yeah.
So, but he's going to need the support. So he's going to have to say to me specifically what he needs from me so that he feels supported studying for this exam and this certification. Because I could just be all over you, or I could, even if it's just like from this time to this time, can you just make sure the kids are quiet? And that to me isn't a sacrifice. It's more me showing my support. But there may be some sacrifices where he's like, I think it's probably going to be best if, like, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I go to Caribou for 2 hours and study.
Yeah.
Well, that's me holding it down at home. Hey, girl, can you? Nope, my husband's studying. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday for the next X amount of weeks.
You can Zoom with your friends.
Right. I'm not available. Zoom. I look at computers all day. So I'm too social for that. I need to see people in person. But support sometimes means sacrifice. And
I think what makes another reason why it makes it easier, and not only do we have the history, but we both know that the other one has the other one in mind. We know that what we're doing is going to benefit the whole family.
Yeah, that's
you know
good.
what I'm saying? It's not like even when I was out doing a lot of playing and traveling and stuff, yes, it was something I wanted to do. I was passionate, but I always had in mind, like, I need to bring something home for the family. You know what I'm saying? Because that's ultimately what my goal is to be a blessing to my family. And so her knowing that, I think maybe made it a little easier to sacrifice.
Yeah.
And even like with these certifications and different classes and stuff we're taking, we know, yes, there's things that we're passionate about, but at the end of the day, we're trying to bless the other one, and increase, our boundaries or whatever. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So that's what it's all about. We have that confidence in one another that they're not just in it for themselves.
Yeah.
They're in it for each other. We're in it for each other.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Because we say this often, that we're a team. Actually, that's on our Facebook page, right? Yeah. We're a team. End of story. Yeah. So, like, when it comes to being married, we view our marriage as we're on a team and we're on the same team.
Yeah.
So if I need to support you, if you need to make some sacrifices, you're making a sacrifice for the team. What I'm investing in, what I am working towards, what I am, sacrificing my own time for and my own energy for is for the team. Right? I mean, what I'm passionate about is definitely going to benefit the community and whoever else, like, my job is for, but the result, what I get from it, it benefits our whole household, and it benefits us as a team.
Yeah.
And allowing one another to take those risks, take those leaps of faith, to really work towards new goals, it makes you a better person.
Right.
And so then when I see you achieving, I see the pride in you, and I see like you see me like so happy and full, like that makes our relationship better, because then the types of conversation we're having are coming from a place of like joy,
right,
and we feel and fulfillment in what it is like we are doing, you know, in our careers or whatever passion we're pursuing. And so then that, like, I think fuels the fire between us,
invigorates your relationship.
Yeah, because if you like, so I mean, kind of going back to when we were pastoring full time, and he decided like, I need to focus on, you know, building this ministry. Music for me is not going to be a part of that outside of like what we do at church. How that impacted him, it was like a wet towel, like on him all the time. Just
a wet, cold towel.
A wet, cold, like 100 wet towels, like a heavy weight on him. And it zapped his energy. You know, it zapped a part of his joy. And that wasn't healthy for our relationship as a newlywed couple, as newlyweds. Like, to have somebody that is just like, you know, you can just see the weight on them and see that they're just depleted and feeling in a way defeated, even because you felt like you had to sacrifice that. And at that time, that was not a healthy sacrifice. So there's healthy sacrifices and there's unhealthy. And that was not a healthy sacrifice for him individually. It was not a healthy sacrifice for our marriage. Wasn't detrimental, but it wasn't healthy. And so it didn't benefit us for him to do that. And so, like, as we move forward, he's got things that he wants to pursue. I have things that I want to invest in and pursue that are reasonable, right? Like, we see the end goal. Yeah. We know they benefit us as a team. We know they benefit our household, and they benefit, you know, whatever other purpose it serves. Like, what you're going to be investing in is going to benefit your financial world and the economy. What I'm investing in is going to benefit, you know, educators and my career. But we see all of those things so then we can support each other, because I don't want you to feel stuck and feel defeated and depleted in that, because then that's going to impact our relationship. It's going to weigh heavy in our relationship, and like that's not going to be healthy for intimacy between the two of us. If we know that like you're just not doing what you know you should be doing. You know.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So supporting your spouse is essential. It is so essential, and it's so crucial. And yes, you have to make sacrifices. There will be a times plural, when you have to sacrifice.
There's no success without sacrifice.
No. And that means marriage. In
marriage and everything.
There's definitely sacrifice. But, you know, like we said, if you're playing as one team, one marriage, we are one, then you can be confident. You can grow to be confident that your sacrifice will be reciprocated, that it will benefit. And I say reciprocated, but I'm not saying like keep score. You're
saying everybody's going to benefit.
Everybody will benefit.
Everybody will benefit.
Yeah. And at some point throughout a healthy relationship, everybody has to sacrifice something. And we don't look at each other like, oh, we sacrificed equally. There's no way to measure that. Don't do that. Don't try to measure.
What is it? 1 Corinthians 13 says, love doesn't keep score.
Don't keep score.
Keep record of wrong.
No. So you don't need to measure how much you did for me. I don't need to measure how much I did for you. Because it's all different. It's at different points in time, has different impacts. So why even bother? Because you're just going to set yourself up for frustration.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah.
And you'll always rationalize why you made the bigger sacrifice. Hands down.
Uh-oh.
Hands down. If you keep score, by nature, by who we are as human beings, you are always going to rationalize on your own behalf. Like, you're always going to rationalize your sacrifice as being greater.
Wow.
It's just natural. Now, you might, if you are wise, you may realize, wow, my husband made such a huge sacrifice for me, greater than what I've ever done. I'm so grateful. But then you're not keeping score.
Right.
You know, you're appreciating. But if you're trying to measure, like, well, let me see, like, I think I don't know if he sacrificed more than me. You're always going to say you sacrificed more. Like, who would... If you're keeping score, why would I, like, intentionally be like, I lose? You know? No. I'm gonna find a way to say that my sacrifice was bigger.
Yeah.
So just don't do that.
Right.
Just be grateful and appreciate, you know.
Grateful.
Yeah.
Gratefulness. All right. Well, I think we've had a great conversation.
Yes.
I hope you heard something that blessed you, you know, encouraged you, and you know, made you feel good, but also made you think too.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I've enjoyed myself.
Yes. Yeah. So think about it as you are continuing to adjust in the midst of COVID and transition and whatever it is. Consider your sacrifice a labor of love, you know, a seed that you are sowing, you know, for the fruit that you want to come out of your relationship.
Yeah.
You know, and do it as one. Talk about it. Be specific. You know, sometimes you got to say, honey, I'm going to need you to sacrifice a little bit here. Okay, what does that mean? So, but you can do it.
Yeah.
Because we want to boost our economy.
Yeah.
Lord, I'm just going back to that fact. We want to have healthy, thriving marriages so that we are bettering our businesses, whether you own them or work at them, and boosting this economy. Y'all, we can make a difference by bettering our marriage relationships.
Yes.
That is so profound. You can impact the bottom dollar. And again, if you own a business that has employees, or if you oversee employees, take that to heart.
Yeah.
Take that to heart, y'all. My team knows. Look, I don't punch a clock, but my team knows when this time, I'm not calling you.
I ain't answering no email.
I'm not answering emails. I'm not calling you. Don't tell me, well, I'm going to schedule time off, but if you need me, nope. Because if you scheduling time off to be with your family or your spouse, that means you're off.
Right.
Don't expect me to text unless it's an emergency.
Right.
Don't look at your email, because guess what? I'm not doing that. Because if I'm taking time off to be with him, I'm not thinking about y'all.
Right.
So if I really mean that, y'all, if you manage people, if you own a business that has employees, if you own a whole big old business, do your people right and be the example. Be the example. So don't reply to emails at midnight if that's not how y'all agree to function.
Right.
Because guess what? You could be impacting somebody's relationship at home. We talk about work-life balance, all that stuff. You as a leader, you're the one that contributes to that work-life balance. And you are the one that has to help see to it that those who you are leading have balance. And the first way you do that is you show them that you have it. So if you don't have it, guess what? They're not going to have it either. Yeah,
because they're going to look at you and say, well, this is what I got to do to get to that position.
Exactly.
So I got to deny my family or whatever because they're denying their family.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. And so if that's the type of leader you want to be, go ahead. But if now you know that those relationships that suffer, they cost you money. They cost you money.
Hear that, CEOs? Come on, give us a donation if that blessed you.
Stop. We ain't looking for no donations.
I need a new base. Come on.
You better quit lying on this live because he don't need
I just sold 2.
Right, so you have money to buy a new one.
No, not the one I want.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Okay.
Anyway.
But we appreciate you joining us.
Thank
if
you
you're
for
watching
listening,
this after the fact, please comment, replay, let us know that you're watching. And if you're listening, we appreciate you listening to our podcast as well. If there's anything you want to hear us talk about, send us a message. If you go to Holy Matrimony on Facebook, you can message our page right there, and we will get a message if there's anything you would like us to discuss. But be encouraged this week.
Yeah.
And just
enjoy your week.
Enjoy your week.
Also, if you want to follow us on Instagram, for those that don't know, I'm at Yaktastic1, YAKKTASTIC1, and you are at
Candace_cultivate.
Yep. And so, also thanks for the people that commented.
Yes, we'll come back to those comments.
Yep. So thanks for listening, folks.
Yes.
Take care. Be blessed. Love one another.
Yes.
All right.
Have a good night.
Yes. Thanks for listening to Holy Matrimony with Erik and Candace Yates. Don't forget to subscribe. We want you to be notified of all of our new content. Take care.